The next presentation we wanted to provide the board is on a proposed solar project for Chaumont. The project is called NSF Chaumont Solar Farm. You received several thousand pages of material. I think the count was 231 pages, if I'm not mistaken, but trying to get to you all of the aspects of the application, which staff has reviewed fairly extensively. There have been some hiccups along the path here, so I think to some extent we'll be learning from Dave Norbit and his crew about the status of that application as we go forward. There's some very important timing elements regarding this project, some very important aspects in terms of what it can contribute to the overall tax base. So we wanted to invite Dave to come talk to you about it and try to answer some questions, because I frankly don't know all of the answers that I should relative to all of this. So with that, let me introduce Dave, and he can take it from there. Sir.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I greatly appreciate it very much. Our proposal is...
I do have it. I do. It's up here if you'd like to.
Awesome.
Peg, can you minimize that right there? And right here. Here you go.
Thanks, Mark.
Just hit the arrow.
Yeah, the arrow. Play from camera. Right over here.
I can't see that far away. Even with glasses.
Binoculars is in
Let's see. So, Norbit Solar Farms, our company, we own a couple of different companies, and what we started off developing solar approximately about 3, maybe 4 years ago. We got into it mainly because of the benefits that we see, not only the use of our land, but also to the benefit of the overall communities that we service. We've been in business for over 23 years in development and construction. We're a local company, and I'm the owner of the upstate company. I'll call it Western New York company, in Rochester, New York. And in 2018, we energized the second largest solar array in all of New York State at the end of 2018. Let's see. Our site plan for the site is 5 individual sites here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The substation is, we share a lot line with the substation and the transmission circuit here. We do have applications into the utility. We've gotten word back from the utility. First, the word is that we were going to have to pare down the size of the system, each one of the arrays. We did get good news, actually, just as soon as, was it yesterday, that said that the other systems that are getting proposed up in Clayton are actually probably not going to meet the criteria for the utility. Therefore, our projects will slip into play there, which is actually good news. I did not get a chance to discuss that with them. Our site selection. Our site selection is very important to us, so we look for poor soils. We also look for natural screening. Those are the 2 major categories that we look for. Here, there's the substation here. This is the transmission circuit. Our property actually goes and follows the river to Morse Track right here, and then circles back up and around. This is the proposed area of. This is the proposed area of the build. The natural screening is on all 3 sides. We've already had a petition into SHPO for the village being a historical natural resource, and had a sign off from SHPO to say that it met the bounds to be far enough away from the historic village. We would be screening on the one side of the road here, screening all the way up and around, so that even if you were driving by, you wouldn't be able to see any of the arrays. It's very important to us for the visual screening. Another thing, as we dug into the site a little bit more, we realized that the village of Chameau had a sewer system that was installed many years ago, and it was under-engineered and at the time. So what that means is that any housing development or any future, really, the sewer and storm sewers are really at capacity. There is no more. So in order to build a commercial viable to use sewers or residentially, the sewer system would literally have to be upgraded, which is, from a financial point of view, kind of unobtainable. So we felt that was good because the soils are poor. It's the sewers can't handle any volume from any housing development. Does not when we build, after we build, we do not require any roads, services, libraries, schools, anything for the community. That we're just really giving back to the community. Why the pilot is necessary? Without it, without a pilot, projects are just not financially feasible anywhere in the state or in the actually nation. Just is not possible without a pilot program. Government is, from the federal government and the state government, subsidize these programs for renewable. It's not nearly as much as what fossil fuels. Fossil fuels accounted for $557 billion that was spent in subsidies for fossil fuel versus $43 billion in renewable energies, which I think is a pretty large number, quite a big difference. A lot of people don't understand that everyone is paying for renewable subsidies in their bill every year or every month. Let's see. It's called a service benefit charge, an SBC charge, and your bill. When you open up your bill at home, you'll actually see this charge. And what it does is it's been in here since 1996, and consumers pay for it monthly, and it goes into the renewable fund to help pay for these projects. So with this that being in there, the state and federal government, through the federal government through the ITC, the state government through a program with JCIDA, helps subsidize the program. And in return, what we do with this is that we can offer businesses and residents, municipalities, etc., 10% discount on their overall bill. So it helps them get some money back. They can buy power directly from us. This is the difference in between like large-scale wind that sells power to downstate, and what they do is they hook up actually to the transmission circuits that takes the power up and out, and they have to sell to the NISO market. Our projects, because they're 5 megawatts or under, we service through the Public Service Commission, the SERS process, and what we can do is any of the residents within the area, the local area, they can purchase the power directly from us, unlike wind, which has to service into the larger marketplace. Local construction spending, right around $11.5 million. Fuel, lodging, entertainment, around $715,000 for the project. Property taxes of our pilot that we have together, we do have, are working back and forth with the appraisal company right now that we've gotten all our paperwork over to, so they can do an evaluation of the system itself. The current rate right now is, for the piece of land, is $3,095, so $46,000 over 15 years. Our proposal is $37,500 per year and $625,000 over 15 years. So as you can see, it's over 100% increase in tax revenue for a piece of property that cannot be developed with housing or a commercial. Yes, agricultural. Also with that too, we can do a 1.5% annual escalator, so every year it continues to rise as far as the escalation is concerned. The biggest benefit I feel for any community, which I wish everyone looked at it like this, but community and student benefits. This is about, I think we did the measurement like 1,700 feet from the school, our location here. This facility will be state-of-the-art, meaning that it's not just a solar facility, it's a solar and storage facility. So we're actually going to be storing and releasing power to the grid. We feel that there's a very large benefit. NYSERDA already has developed STEM programs from kindergarten to 12th grade for teachers. These programs are already developed for the teachers in the school districts. If we can get the kids out there to see how solar works and understand that their school, their home, the businesses are actually powered by the sun, and this is how it works. We plan to, have an engineer out there to work back and forth, hopefully with the teachers, and to be able to walk the kids directly over there so they can walk them through how it actually works. I think would be great. And so I think it's a very large community benefit that we see as well. So that's my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Where's the second largest one that you was?
In Parma, New York.
Which is.
Oh, Rochester?
It's west of Rochester. Yep. Yeah, west of Rochester. Yep.
A question, the
Please.
pilot value that you put up there, how did you conclude, quick math, I think it's 1,500, but I just can't do the math in my head here quickly. 1,500 megawatt, how did you conclude that that is a sensible amount?
So what we did
I
is
know that's your offer.
Yep. So what we actually did is, so we go on the debt service cover ratio of what our financial people are looking for, really, and we back everything from that. So in some communities, we have as high as $5,500 per megawatt that we offer to the taxing jurisdictions. So one of the main thing that really goes into the equation is constructability. What is the constructability? Our concern for this site in particular was, where's the bedrock? So we send a post pounder out there from Ohio. Yeah.
Could ask anybody in the county that's like.
Well, we got to go through our testing, and the engineers got to sign. So we got out of 20 posts, we got down 2 to depth, and so that really means is that the refusal rate on something like this is extremely high. So our construction costs are right around $3.5 million higher for the site, because what we have to do is, it's what's called a ballast system. So what a ballast system does is, think of a big flower pot. A big flower pot goes on the ground, we pour concrete in it as the steel and everything is in the flower pot, and then we actually have to pour it in there, and that's the foundation. So we wouldn't be pounding on the site because it's unpoundable.
You don't drill it?
No.
Isn't that an accepted procedure on a lot of these?
You can do that, it's just the amount of drills that we would have to do here is, it's substantial.
You referred to our property, but in your application you show a lease. Are you owning the property or leasing the property?
So they're all separate entities. So as you've seen in the paperwork, there's 5 applications. So each one of the applications is for a 5 megawatt facility. And each 5 are going to be leasing from so we have a real estate holding company, and then we have a project company. So
The underlying land you're going to own.
yes, that is true. Yes. Yeah, so we'll own the other land that we're not developing. We'll still be paying taxes on that other property as well. We did not put that in our proposal.
This is all
but
within the corporate village limits?
yes.
When you first came to us, you really led us to believe there was no role for the IDA in this, and you were really looking for lay of the land type information when we had our first meeting with you. And now I assume because the school doesn't wish to participate in a pilot agreement, that's the reason you're here now, or are there other reasons?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons is because of the school district, yes, because they believe that there's no other way to accept pilot money without hurting them. And we've tried multiple times to reach out to them. We have done this process many times within New York State, and at the end of the day, all school districts have agreed after we've worked with them back and forth to come up with a plan that makes financial sense for the school district. They will not return our calls. And from our standpoint, there's many different ways that this community can benefit from something like this without hurting the school district, but they have to be willing to communicate and work with us. We've literally done this multiple times over the state, and at the end of the day, we've always came to a conclusion that this can work out. But when they have a party who's not returning calls and not working, we, yes, have to turn to the IDA at that point to see if we can say, do you see a point that this really makes sense for the overall community? Because the community benefits are pretty strong with a parcel of land that is hay.
Okay, my next question is you have a very aggressive schedule, and I assume because of the distributed generation program, which sunsets at the end of this year?
So there's two programs. One is that if we don't spend 5% this year, we will lose our holdings within the ITC. So our ITC, there's a step down through the federal government that goes from 30% down to 26%. So we'll lose 4% of our funding from NYSERDA.
I understand, but the village just
Or from-
instituted
sorry.
a 3-month moratorium on wind projects so they can generate some
Solar.
wind.
Solar.
Slack.
Solar.
Okay? I'm still living in blue, okay? So on a solar project, they have no regulations in their zoning law currently, or what they believe is inadequate.
Yep,
There's a
we've talked
3-month moratorium, which quite candidly is pretty aggressive on their part.
Extremely aggressive.
To get it done.
Yeah.
How does that affect your schedule?
Frightening.
Because they can't begin seeker until that's done, correct?
Yeah, our attorney reached out and talked with the planning board head and kind of feel that everything can kind of work almost simultaneously, so that when their law gets in and active, and their law gets into place, that at the same time we're basically running parallel, so therefore they can do approvals at the same time. That was the discussion that they had. Our cost of capital into the project is pretty substantial at this point, and so when we did a pro forma that says, hey, if we take it X amount of time more, it's not, we're rolling the dice at that point. If we go past the end of the year, before the end of the year, this project is probably not going to ever happen, for sure. And one of the main reasons is because we're dealing with bedrock.
So if the agency's policy, if we're unable to successfully negotiate a pilot with a school, what does that do to your project?
If it can make it with it. I'm sorry.
Well, we have, our policy is that all the taxing jurisdictions have to agree to the pilot agreement, or there's no pilot.
Right.
So if the school doesn't come to the table, does that have an impact on your, if they won't come to the table for us, does that have an impact on your project?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a non-starter, for sure. But my thought is within the community is a different way to approach the school district than through a developer. And the community is the one that's really benefiting from this, but the school district doesn't want to hear that from me. It's a parent. And so if the IDA, who does this all the time, can talk to the school district and say, look, there's another way, you're just not looking at this a specific way, you can look at it a different way, and look at this, and prove to them that, in fact, there is other outlets here, they just don't want to hear it from me. And
I'm going to suggest, part of the reason, the communities up here are a little beat up because of the wind.
I've heard.
So, and the schools have been through it with school aid. So
Yeah.
you don't want to impact their school aid. So you're trying to get this community and school board to sit down and negotiate a fair agreement for benefits for this project. It's called tax revenue, but let's call it benefits. You're in at $1,500 a megawatt. You referenced the range of $1,500 to $5,500 a megawatt. Had you considered, I think you should consider, because your timeline is coming up short, putting something more substantial on the plate for the community to get more benefit from the project? School district doesn't have to get that revenue directly into the school district. It can be a community offset, right? I mean,
I don't know if I followed that, I'm
Well,
sorry.
You're talking host community benefits.
Right, host community
But
benefits.
that's
right.
gonna be a non-starter because we've had those
Yeah.
discussions.
They're not really good for your
with other taxing
community.
jurisdictions, and they're drop dead issue, host community benefits. And at the meeting with Kevin McCullough, who was the attorney that made the presentation, he basically said he believes they're, one, unenforceable and questions
Right.
their legality.
It's true.
So the school can't offset their share of the pilot to the community.
No, they absolutely can, and there's a very simple way to do it. And the simple way, the very simple, easy way to do it is opt back into the 487, and then the amount of money that I'm giving the school district, take up to your cap, your state aid cap. If it's 20 grand, take that. And then the other money you forfeit to the county and to the village, which you're still giving it to the same people. It's the same community. So for me, I can't understand, I mean, the other communities I've worked with, fully get it and they understand that. And so for this community, I highly doubt that the school district is directly at its cap and it can't take $1 more. There's gotta be somewhere in there where the financial planner can say, you can take up to $10,000, $12,000 more a year, and then, you gotta forfeit the rest. So we write a pilot for $12,000, or they just forfeit all the money and just say, we're just gonna give it to the village and the county. And 100% of it goes, again, to the same people that are going to the school district. So that is what I would say is the easiest path of resistance, because they're no longer offering a pilot program, they're just into the state exemption, which does not affect the statewide, cap.
Well, it would seem to me, an outside observer, I'm not a part of that community, that if you want to move this thing forward, there's got to be some more money put into the pot to move it forward as far as the benefit ratio. Your $1,500 a megawatt versus $3,500 or $4,500 a megawatt.
I think
Yeah, but I think that what I want to explain with that is that a $5,500 megawatt is where I can just roll onto site and I'm pounding post and my construction costs aren't through the roof. I have to be able to take this to the financial institution to say, I've already got financial approvals based upon my financial model, but if I don't meet that debt service cover ratio on our proposal, there is no project. So that's how I came up with the $1,500 is I literally went through the whole thing and I'm offering as much money as we can based upon the conditions that I'm encountering.
How many feet of earth do you need to pound versus drill?
7 feet.
7.
Question, two parts. First
Yep.
part needs to get answered before I can actually intelligently ask the second part.
Fair.
First part, I think you presented 5 applications. Are we to consider this as 5 separate projects of 5 megawatts
Yes.
each, or is it one 25 megawatt project?
Yes, they're 5 separate applications,
Okay.
and they are, and one of the main reasons why we did this is because if I go for a larger project and I said I went for a 10 megawatt project, I now have no choice. I can't sell to the community. I actually have to sell to the open market and go to NISO.
So that was part of this, so you're presenting this under what would be called our UTEP. It is below 25 megawatt project, so there's no deviation you're requesting.
Yeah, it will definitely be, no matter what, this substation right here is capped at 25,
Okay.
meaning that's the limit. It can't take more than that. So it's really, the utility is right now at about 24 megawatts. And after the phone call I just had with them, we're really about 22.5 megawatts. So that's the largest we can actually build.
So the second part now that I think I can intelligently ask, but I'll say I've made full positive for it.
Sure.
If there's no deviations, I believe, as this was described to our board, you're willing to take the appraised value from the county's appraisal, which may or may not say it's $10,000 a megawatt, which we won't learn for some period of time.
He's not gonna give that.
He's gonna give you what the market value of the project is, and then it's going up to the taxing jurisdictions on how much abatement from what full taxation would be.
I'm just trying to figure out, back to my question, if there's no deviation from our UTEP, we're allowed to give 50% tax abatement. So are we saying it's $3,000 a megawatt, is that the appraised value? That's what I'm trying to drive at, are we looking at a deviation or aren't we? And I don't know the math, I don't know the answer, and that's
Until we get better
one of my
appraisals.
frustrations,
Yeah, we-
is that we don't have the data to make it intelligent. I don't wanna get this thing so far down the road, we already learned this with the project Paul brought up by mistake. We get so far down the road on
was
what
obsession,
full
not
taxation
mistake.
is and what full taxation isn't, so it's either a deviation to start or it's not. It's a fairly simple suggestion. And I honestly is not trying to put words in your mouth, and I'm not trying to, cast any criticism towards it, but
I don't think
our
we
rules
can-
are our rules.
I don't think we can determine whether there's going to be a deviation or not, because it all depends on if there's equal distribution or if there's a varied distribution. I think the discussion needs to happen with the school and everybody to see.
Still,
Shouldn't that have happened before the applications were put in front of us? I mean, we're being boxed in again. I mean, what haven't we learned? Honestly, what haven't we learned about getting facts in front of us to make intelligent decisions, up or down, to move forward or not? We always want to say, this is great, let's have a discussion later, we'll get back to you. That's my really biggest frustration, notwithstanding it doesn't meet local zoning, and it may or may not meet secret, frankly.
I don't think that we have I know that historically, from the IDA standpoint, we never really got into discussions until we had an application.
I'm talking about today, I'm not talking about 20 years ago.
Well, I don't know, we can ask council
And I'm only one
how that
person.
works, but
Until there's an
My opinion,
application,
which means
until there's an
nothing.
application in front of you, that the staff doesn't really have anything to work with and to move forward, to work towards negotiating the pilot. I mean, the application is simply gives the staff the ability, once you accept it as a complete application, it gives your staff the ability to work out the details, to bring something back. You're not approving anything today. I mean, you're not being asked to approve anything. All you're being asked to do is allow the staff to work with the developer and the taxing jurisdictions to put something together to bring back to you in the future.
Well, I think what we're approving honestly is for staff to try to convince the school board, which has publicly said no,
You're
to
not.
agree or not.
You're asking staff to move forward to try to develop an agreement that's acceptable to the developer and the taxing jurisdictions. If it's not, it's not. I mean, that's all you're doing. You're basically saying, green light to go ahead and try to work out the details of a pilot. That's it. I mean, you're not approving anything else today at all. All you're saying is, we have an application, the staff tells us it's complete, so we're accepting it as complete, and now they can move forward and try to work something out. That's it. And that's how the process always works.
Yeah, and I support that. I support that.
The problem I have, and we're gonna go back to Win for a second, I apologize, that, once we accept this, there was a proposal put forward on Galoo without, I guess it's more an internal discussion on how these discussions will go after. Here's my first, about 8 months ago, Joe, I asked for an opinion. General municipal law, gentlemen, requires that we ensure that any project we deal with meets local zoning codes, okay? We now know that the town's done a moratorium, and I just wonder if we're accepting an application before we know it's an even allowed use, are we creating a problem for us? I mean,
No, because you can't ultimately approve what's presented to you if it doesn't meet local zoning. I mean, that's not only part of your policy, part of the law. So you're gonna, before you can actually approve something, the town, they're gonna have to enact their zoning, their solar law, and this is gonna have to comply with it. They're gonna have to have their local approvals before we sign on the dotted line and agree to the pilot and do all the paperwork and everything else. It's gonna have to meet local zoning. Accepting the application doesn't bind this organization to anything. And all it does is says, okay, we've got an application, now we can move forward and try to put the project together if we can. And if the municipalities don't approve it because it doesn't meet zoning, it doesn't go anywhere.
well, and in all fairness to these gentlemen, they made a presentation before. I mean, I certainly don't have a problem with the project. It's the process that we have to bounce off of, because right now, you're probably the smallest project we're looking at. We have 3 projects anyhow over 100 megawatts. We have another Clayton project that I think you referenced that may not get access to the grid. That's probably Oya. And I think, I hate to make you guys be the first one, but I think, knowing there's a moratorium, we have time to do it. I mean, if the school agrees and it passes on, then I certainly don't have a problem with the project. But I think we have to take the time to make sure we have a solid process to review these projects. And we have a little bit of time, because we know they're not gonna have a decision for 3 months from the village anyhow. And the other projects are gonna go through the PSC, and there's 18 months on those. So,
5 years.
5 years?
5 years on those projects.
They haven't approved a single large solar array yet through the siting process, have they?
Yeah, it will be 5 years before the next bid opens. The bid that's coming due right now, no one's prepared for. So it will be 5 years before any of those larger scale projects even become a potential, like we're putting
Well, I'm
something
talking
in the
about
ground.
the PSC siting board review for projects, whether it's solar, wind, geothermal. If they're over 25 megawatts, they have to go through the PSC approval process. And there's some that have been out there over a year already, and they aren't even approved yet. That's the PSC side.
That's what there'll
Forgetting
be, there'll be 5 years. What I'm really asking the board to do here today is really, can we move forward with an application? I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, I'm not looking for an approval, are you okay with my pilot? I'm saying, is it okay for the IDA to kind of move to the next step to see if they can work something out with the school board? The village and the town have already spoke to. They pretty much said what the county is gonna do, they're gonna go forward with.
Which is a point, because nobody has talked to the county, right? I mean.
No, but that's what they said, so I mean, I'm
He's with
just
the county.
going based on what they said.
And I can tell you from the county's point of view, that appraisal that you said is being worked on is important. So is there a time frame?
3 weeks, he said. He was in my office on Tuesday, and he said 3 weeks. They already started the paperwork and everything, and in 3 weeks he would have that. And just because timing is of the essence for this project, just to approve this part of it, as far as the village of Chameau, we believe that they're being sincere, and what they're really looking to do is just, the village of Chameau doesn't have a way to put our application on hold, because technically in their law, it really does allow for them to act, to approve our project under site plan review. However, they're nervous about certain particulars of the project. So we believe they're being sincere in what they want to do. Take a step back for a second and just look at other towns and what they're doing, and enact some things, and at least have some things on the books. And we feel that that's great. We offered to the village of Chameau that we would hire an independent consultant of Chameau's choice that we would pay for. We've offered a few different options as far as that, but we were told that they will move swiftly through this, and we have no reason to believe that they don't. I mean, the only reason they'd be acting into a moratorium is for our project, because there is no other land in Chameau, in the village of Chameau, that they could build a facility of this site.
The other thing that's an unknown is the village has a vote coming up to end being a village in November, and I don't know, that'll be unique grounds if we got to think about that, if the village ceases to exist.
If they do vote to go forward with that process, the dissolution process is probably going to take them at least a year to get completed. I've been involved in a couple already, and that process takes a while. And
that's only if it passes.
Right, and if it does pass and they go through the process, then the town by default inherits everything, is what it boils down to.
Right.
And this Dave, not you Dave, this Dave, what I said earlier, and again, I reflect what Paul said, I really don't have an issue with the project per se, I have an issue with the process. It hasn't gone through seeker, maybe there's gonna be less panels. It hasn't met zoning criteria, maybe there's gonna be some changes. We don't know what those are, and we clearly, to reflect Bill, we don't know the financials. Those are the things I struggle with. I'm sorry, I'm so fact-based, I'm just born that way, I'm wired that way. But if all of a sudden, we spend a month of public money, and we determine full taxation is $7,500 a megawatt, which maybe it isn't. I think we've already heard from Mr. Norbit. He's not gonna tolerate the project at that value. Maybe he can't tolerate it if he had to get rid of one parcel because the zoning required it. So all I'm asking is this premature in the sense that we don't have a lot of the facts? I mean, there's facts here, I just don't know if they're right or
So-
not, because they're changing.
By accepting an application, we give our staff the ability to continue to work with the developer and develop the information that's needed. Without us accepting an application, basically the staff is, we go no farther. It stops.
I just honestly feel we did this, again, this is my own opinion, nobody else. I feel we poked the county in the eye with that whole blue discussion, and I feel we're poking in the eye again, and I feel we're poking the school board in the eye. There is not a determination at the county of an appetite for projects of this nature in the school. I didn't hear that directly from them, but I hear it's a hard no, even with community benefits. What do we gain about putting people in a box? And then, and I'm using strong words here, but we don't want to be perceived as bullies, trying to convince somebody of the benefits that they've already adjudicated on their own, come to their own conclusion, as this board would. We're all individuals. We all have different ideas. And again, I just feel zoning and seeker are a big driver and a big leader for how this project will be shaped. We've heard from Mr. Norbit that this is balance sheet driven. This isn't what taxation is driven. This is already 75% subsidized. I'm a New York State taxpayer. This is highly, highly, highly subsidized. I personally,
And it's
just appalled by that in general. I don't care what business it is.
And all I can say to that is that it's subsidized whether it goes in Jefferson County or whether it goes in,
And guess what? If we can
Shimon
get
County.
low-cost energy, we can get low-cost energy whether it's built in Jefferson County or not. So you can still get the benefits without giving up the
That's not
the
true.
cow.
That's not true. The subsidies first come out of every person in this room's bill, and as long as you're in New York State. And at the end of the day, these systems here specifically are called CDG. They're community development projects. I mean, these are for communities. So these large-scale projects you're all talking about, these are not for your community, and the cost per megawatt, you'll get under $1,000 per megawatt from taxing from the pilot. I mean, it will all shake out in the years, but I mean, the bottom line is that the subsidies are necessary in today's economic world. I don't write the policies, I just am out there doing my best in the environment that we have, that we've all not personally created, but other people have created, and we're in it. And if I will say that if we do lose the 4% and our NYSERDA grant is slipping away, our project will not be a community project that we do give the benefits, will not be for your community. And the only thing you'll be left with is projects that are these large-scale projects that are trucking all that power out to downstate. And it doesn't benefit your community. It clearly will not benefit your community, and you'll see it in the taxes too, because I had a great conversation with many other large-scale developers, and pick up the phone and call them and ask them what they can really pay for their pilot programs, and you'll see that I'm not far off. NYSERDA has published a guidebook that actually tells you we're right pretty much in line with NYSERDA. They're in National Grid territory, they say in between $1,700 and $5,500 a megawatt. And we're a little bit under that. We're $1,500 a megawatt, and the only reason is because I have $3.5 million of extra costs for concrete. That's the only reason. If I could some way get around that, then we can pay, more money in the pilot because our debt service cover ratio makes financial sense.
At the end of the day, we're not the ones who are going to determine what your pilot's going to be. But I have a question from a meeting I was at Wednesday, getting prepared for this one. Mr. Alexander told us that you might have to scale or already scaled your project back because of availability grid. Was that what you were talking about, the substation that's now disappeared, so you're back to the full project? He had mentioned that you had already scaled it back because of access issues?
Yes, access issues are very important, and that's another timing issue per se. So if a larger project, because they're not under the SERS process, they're in a completely separate group of how the utility looks at these projects. So if a utility scale project moves in, and I want to say, use this substation, but a utility scale project that might not happen for 5 years comes on that line, our project will not go forward. Does that make sense?
I understand what
Because of
you're
the
saying,
timing.
but right now, that's disappeared and you have full access to what you need for 25 megawatts.
Not full. It's almost full access. It's 22.5 is, and again, we don't have the papers from the utility yet, but we've had collective conversations that
But that's the
understand
optimal
that.
output is 25, in all reality, it probably would always be a little bit less than that.
Yeah, I mean, technically, where we feel we'll be is in between 14 megawatts and 22 megawatts is where we'll be. But
On an
we're,
average day, on a good day.
Well, that's the
No,
DC
this-
system size.
the size of the project.
Wait a second, so are you 25 DC or 25 AC output?
This proposal is 25 DC. So then on the AC side, that it's gonna be.
Okay, because we learned a lot from discussions about the PSC, that the PSC reviews these projects on AC output, not on DC output. I assumed you were putting in like 7 megawatts DC to get to 25 AC, because I can't get to my application, Marshall. So it's 25 DC.
Yeah, we
Okay.
we follow the standard SERS application. That's what we're following.
I thought that was an AC.
Paul?
Am I wrong as far as how you got that?
No, it's 25 megawatts.
Yeah.
Do you know what page?
Your application does say 25
Yeah.
125.
Oh, AC.
My mistake, then, my mistake as far as how you got it.
The number of
Line up at
panels
25
is-
AC.
Your 25 AC output.
Yeah,
So
I
your-
have 6.6
your larger DC, because
25.
we got an
Yes.
education that there's like a 20% drop off from DC to AC when you go through your inverters, roughly.
Yeah, and depending on weather and if you're running them underground and types of soil and, I mean,
Gotcha, I'm just,
that's an engineering
But-
thing, not,
Mr. Alexander had said at our meeting a week ago that you might have already had to scale back the maximum size of your facility because of access issues, but I guess that's been taken.
I mean, we're hopeful, but that's not a guarantee. That, what it really says is that the other company has a chance to say that they want to pay for certain upgrades that is maybe more substantial than they were originally thinking, and if they decide to move forward with those upgrades, therefore, then we would potentially be scaled back down to the 14 megawatts.
Okay, so 14 is your scale down size.
That would be if, we prefer to be the 22, or 24 megawatts.
So even if you get scaled back to 22, your performance works? I mean, to 14, your performance would work for that size facility?
Yes, anything up to 10. 10, if we go under 10, it doesn't work anymore. And it becomes a constructability scale, meaning that, you're building this table versus building, 10,000 tables. It's the scale of economy. But if we go under 10 megawatts, the project literally gets flipped on the financials as well.
Can I have the floor for a minute?
You have it for-
I'm getting a little frustrated. We need to start doing our job. And our job isn't to be judge and jury of this project, as I see it. This is economic development. We do job stimulation, we do economic stimulation. So for us to pick all this apart, yes, it's knowledge we need to know, but why are we picking this all apart at this point in time right now? We should be, as economic development people, taking a step back a little bit. Let's push our own opinions back. I have my own opinions, I agree. This subsidy thing is completely out of control. Can the economy afford it? I don't know, but it's out there. All these things are floating around. That's irrelevant, I think, to us doing our job at this point in time. It's like we're the referees, we're the not advisors, but the guiders, our stimulators, so to speak.
We're the workhorse.
Right, so
We're the
our job
workhorse.
is to bring the parties together. The parties are going to ultimately rule whether they want it or not. back to the taxing jurisdictions. I'm not upset over this application. I think to really consider devoting time and energy, it's got to start with a bona fide application process. And then from there, all right, they're committed, we'll start committing our resources to do the legwork to move this process through the system. So I just think we're trying to decide whether this is a project that should go forward or nowhere today, and it's not up to us to determine that. That's my level of frustration.
So Don, how many meetings have we had at an agency prior to application with any of the affected taxing jurisdictions and or the developer?
We've had several meetings with the developer, probably 4 or 5, as we tried to clarify what the application would look like. We've had no official meetings with any of the taxing jurisdictions, except perhaps if we can suggest that maybe Bill is carrying some of this information back to the county. But other than that, we haven't started. Right, we have not started the process because the process for the last 46 years has been to accept an application or deems it complete. We have $2,500 of application fee. We take that and use that resource to help staff begin to sort through this, so we can then present to you our findings. Simple as that. I don't know what the findings are going to be. I've heard an awful lot of information from the various taxing entities through other people as to their feelings about this. If we find that there is significant resistance to making this happen, the project is likely to not go forward. But I can't sit here today and say with any validity this process is either going to fail or succeed. All I can tell you is the process for the last 46 years has been to accept a completed application and then start. It's not start and then accept the application. We don't do it that way because we don't know what we're facing in any one of these projects. It doesn't make any difference. What we have not done in the past is got ahead of ourselves, and I don't think we want to do that here. I don't know what the school system.
In all fairness to these gentlemen, we have gotten ahead of ourselves in the past, and it's internal stuff. You know, sometimes I don't think there's enough sharing of information as this process goes forward. Like, I don't want to be the one that's trying to strong arm a school district. The school district says no. You know, I don't want to go out there and try to intimidate them. We also have a responsibility to the greater community, all the county, to make sure that we adhere to good economic development policies. And like I said, I don't have a problem with this project. I have a problem with, are we getting ahead of ourselves when we don't know what the village is going to do? Are we getting ahead of ourselves? Suggestions, they just arrived. So that's my concern. If the village says yes and the school says yes and everyone agrees on the pilot tax, I'm okay. But let's not forget, on another project, a straw proposal went out that to the taxing jurisdictions, it created a whole lot of problems. And we were never informed as a board about that. So I think we need to have some internal discussions on how the information is going forward before we go out to a school district or we go out to the county, so we aren't offended. We just had a meeting with park tenants the other day, I'm told. I haven't heard how it went, but I hope it went good. And that was, you know, we jumped on board with a project that upset the park. So I think a lot of this, gentlemen, is not your project, okay? It's internal. If everyone agrees to this project, I don't have a problem with it. But we got to get to understanding whether or not they have it before we get in front of ourselves.
Paul, to characterize our process as strong arm is just absolutely ridiculous. We don't strong arm anybody. We work closely with taxing entities as well as the developer, trying to find solutions. That's it. We don't strong, we are in no position to strong arm anybody. We're the only IDA that requests all approvals from all of the taxing jurisdictions, no matter what. I think you would affirm that. We're the only ones that take a very collegial approach in trying to develop our community. That's all we're trying to do. I don't understand what the issue is, frankly. I don't understand it. It's worked quite well.
The legislation that created IDAs gave IDAs the ability to strong arm. However, this IDA has never done that, unlike other IDAs across the state. But the legislation gives you the authority to be a strong arm. You've developed policies that say you're not gonna do that. So,
And we live with those.
yeah.
So I'll throw out a process that in my mind I can reconcile and somewhat support is if we go through the vote, the application carries and what have you, my feeling is, because Paul brought this up under the LDC, we don't have a mechanism how we're gonna deal with these jobs. I feel sometimes we do get ahead of ourselves, we can debate that for days on end, but whatever, that's again my opinion. I feel as though we should step back until we get the appraisal, then get all of these affected taxing jurisdictions in a room, kind of get, and I don't want to call it a simple up or down, because I know it's more involved than that, but the first step is, what's full taxation? We've already agreed, there's no deviation, we're 50% of full taxation, then get the 4 entities in a room, get their opinion, then you report back to the board and we decide if we're gonna spend more public money, because this is public money that we are spending in agency time, and I know damn well you've got 50 other projects that you want to attract as well. No disrespect, and again, as Paul said, this is a procedural thing.
Yeah.
We have 50 things going on, and this is very important as well. It's just that we've always taken a process that the communities have to want it. Right now, we don't know, because we haven't started the discussion. And again, we don't know.
Which we have to process the
chicken or the
application.
egg, the chicken or the egg. I mean, there needs to be sort of like what you do in all politics. You get an informal vote from your board on where things stand, and then you decide at the right time to move forward or not. And again, that's just my opinion, is taking the next step. If this goes forward with the application being accepted, get the appraisal, then get the community groups together that have to determine will they or won't they allow a pilot.
But you have to have the application. You have to
No, I
have-
said if the application is accepted.
Right, you have to have an application for us to allow staff to move forward.
I'm saying this is the only way I'm gonna support an application being complete is following these procedures. I'm throwing it out there, my opinion. Because otherwise, I look at the community doesn't have zoning that allows this. Will it allow it? Most likely, but under what process? And maybe it falls below his 10 megawatt threshold, then his project dies. We're all wasting time if we don't have all the facts. I agree, you need to start somewhere, then move towards it. If we get understanding of what full taxation is, not us, the communities that actually have to give up the tax abatement, we're a broker. But if we don't know what full taxation is, and get those community groups together, because again, what I keep citing is the fact that there was always one entity left out of the glue discussions until the very end. And I was very offended by that, because I kept feeling that we poked our feeder in the eye many times. We get a lot of money from Jefferson County, and we just decided to not involve them for whatever reason. And that's just my opinion again. I don't work for the county, I'm not an agent of the county, I'm a taxpayer. But I don't feel like we should poke people in the eye, and I'm not using the strong enough word, I just...
I'll wait for other answers, that's okay.
So, my opinion is, I can support a process of moving forward with an application if, me personally, and I'm not speaking for anyone else, but I think there's a good workaround, if we don't get so far down the line, we first understand full taxation, then we've already discussed, this is not a deviation, so 50% of full taxation is the number. Then get the groups together, give an up or down.
I concur completely. To me, that...
Is that a motion to move the
No,
application?
it was not a motion.
Listen,
No one stepped in the
I
step.
had an inkling on denying this application today. I was thinking of tabling it till we got things done. If we can get a commitment that this agency is gonna sit down and come up with how we're gonna handle solar projects, which was the question I raised in the first one about the Alternative Energy Committee, because I believe it was to determine how we're going to proceed in all on these projects.
What a great exercise to do it in real time.
But
So,
that's,
if we get a commitment from the board, then we're gonna sit down and establish how we're gonna review applications and move forward with the tax insurance, and I have no problem accepting that.
To me,
But I
that's a
just
given.
didn't feel that
Is
was.
that a motion to accept it?
that's a good.
You know what? I'll make a motion to accept the application as complete, provided that we get it with a caveat that the agency is gonna set up for procedures, how we're gonna review alternative energy projects moving forward. And sadly, gentlemen, you're gonna be the test case, but that's the beginning.
I think half
Okay.
in their case.
But I think the other thing we need to recognize, from my perspective, the
It's
county,
okay.
the county is ahead of us on this.
You might
The
just.
county's already 2 steps ahead
Save
of
your
us
money.
on
I
how
agree.
they must
I
determine,
agree with you 100%.
you know, this whole taxation issue.
Yep, sorry, Dave.
So, you know, I don't think we're poking the county in the eye, but they're on top of their game. We're
Yeah.
probably gonna go to them for
Thank you so much for all your time, I appreciate it very much.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate it very much.
Take care.
Nice meeting you.
Do you need a second?
Do I have a second?
I was seconded for the same things I said, just as long
Yep.
as we establish the procedure. I'm fine with that. I just don't like the process.
And I have no problem with it, working on
I mean,
that.
that was the
I have-
reason I brought up the
I have no
Alternative
problem.
Energy Committee and the
Yep.
LDC. I think
Yep.
we were created to determine how we're gonna proceed with this. And it's probably good in a way that we're dealing with a small project first, because I think it's gonna be a bigger battle when you
It's a-
deal with these mandatory.
It's a good test case. It's a good test case. It gives us something to work with, that, you know.
But you've also, part of this whole process is somebody will be part of it. It's got to flush out the truths and the non-truths.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
that's the process
But
that's.
there also need to be gateways along the way.
Yeah.
That's what we missed on some past projects.
Well, I
So-
think the key here is, he said 3 weeks, we should know the,
Exactly. What are we holding up?
3 weeks, we'll know what the true value of the project is. And then I think we can make big steps, and the county will know what they're gonna do. I still have a problem with the school, because the school is hard and fast, no.
But they haven't been asked. My only is to side with Don on this particular point. The agency hasn't asked. And that's why I'm saying, we get full taxation and get all the entities in one room and discuss it as adults, then you'll know the facts. Right now, we're somewhat postulating based on past discussions in history. So that's how I feel the process could be supported about getting the early gateway of, are the communities involved? And the community is the greater good. It's county and all the way down to the local village.
So we have a motion and a second to accept an application and start the process.
Yes, sir.
To accept 5 applications, Dave.
Yes.
The applications.
I think
The
we should let
applications.
Bill finish.
It's outlined in the
Say-
resolution.
I will.
That's in the
Let Bill
packet.
finish what he wanted to say.
Oh, go ahead.
I lost my train of thought now. Oh, what I was gonna say is, not as an IDA board, not as a county representative, but as somebody who lives in the town of Lyme, I talked to the school superintendent. She personally is against a pilot. Now, she would told me that if her board told her that this is what we wanted to do, this is what we should do, but she has told Mr. Norbert several times that they weren't interested.
Which
Well,
to
we
me
can-
demonstrates a process that hasn't happened yet. It should be the board, you know, the board behind that. So that's, to me, demonstrates a need for step 2, which is to consider all the options other than a personal belief scenario and her job.
And it's good we figured that out, because with all the projects that are proposed in this county, there's at least 1, if not 2, taxing jurisdictions that don't grant the solar wind exemption. I mean, the ones, there isn't a town in the Orleans project, Orleans and Lafargeville, Clayton, and the TI Central don't grant the exemption. I think Clayton's reconsidering that, but we're going to be bouncing off taxing jurisdictions that don't support that exemption in every project that's been proposed.
Well, the other thing we can do with staff is look at some of the other school districts where they've done it, they've accepted it, and just find out how they structured it to make it acceptable. And that could be an example too, so.
And that's important.
Which, yeah, and I think most of
Is a
those
resolution before or after?
boards that make decisions.
It was in the
are on
beginning.
board grounds.
There's no objections, Mr. Chairman, call the question.
I'm working electronically to try to get the resolution up here. Oh, okay.
I don't rely on electronics. I do not rely on electronics.
You're faster than the cloud.
That's what was in our board packet.
Okay, I have Resolution 0502-2019.01. It's a resolution of Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency determined that certain applications submitted by Norbert Solar Farms, the parent company, requesting leaseback transactions in connection with a proposed solar energy facility to be constructed by 5 subsidiary companies of the parent company at 5 separate locations within the town of Lyme. Town of Lyme tax parcel 61.43-1-3-1 are complete. And I have a motion and a second to accept the application.
Yes.
Applications. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, we have to do a roll call.
All roll
anyway.
call vote. I'm sorry.
The only thing I want to say before we actually vote is, as long as we wait for that appraisal before we actually go out and start talking to the taxing jurisdiction.
That's fine.
That was the motion second on the floor.
Yep, that's
Well,
fine.
and I think that once that appraisal comes in, those others of what are some of the alternatives for compensation other than tax dollars going to school.
And that's where I think
That needs to be part of
our
it.
agency and the developer can articulate that to the agencies, but let's start, again, I'm wired for facts. What's the fact of full taxation? Right.
And what does $1,500 mean towards that?
Don't know, might be 90%.
Okay.
Tax abatement
Yep.
might be 10%. I don't know the answer.
Roll call vote.
Dave,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thanks, everyone. I'll tell you that, it's, sometimes people think it's heated discussion. It's not necessarily heated. To me, it's good discussion. Get your,
Vigorous.
vigorous.
Business is never personal, it's about relationships. Relationships have disagreements.
Exactly.
We unturn all the stones. That's, I think, anyway. Nothing wrong with that.
Moving right along.
Do you want to go back to the treasurer's report? Or
No, I want-
Colleen
let's
Cherry Tree?
do-
Okay.
And I'm gonna,
Okay, thank you. I was
Put that
gonna
over
ask
to
if
you
I could
and-
kind of like, we skipped loan review. Don and Dave got an application late, that Dave's in there. And we said, let's skip loan review because it would push it out a whole another month. So we have a resolution in here which Dave will read all the particulars. But normally we'd go through loan review, it's for Collins Cherry Tree Inn, it's a micro enterprise loan. They've given all the financial data that they did go through the right, small business development agencies, have written up a business plan. Lyle's kind of done his due diligence and put out a few things. Dave was able to personally give some input, and since we skipped the loan review, I did reach out to John Jennings by email, so I got one thing that he had input, which I had already caught. So what I wanted to do is kind of just go through the particulars. They're applying for $40,000 micro enterprise loan, which we would be in first position on more than that for equipment. So this is a very good
First position on
situation.
equipment, yes.
This is a very good situation. That is actually a very highly secured loan, which is
Yes.
unique for micro enterprise.
It is.
They meet the threshold of 40,000 max or less than 40% or 40% of the project. They're at 27% of the project at that value. The one, and this is, I gotta ask you a question on this. We have guidelines and it's supposed to be 10% equity, but they are achieving a loan of 73%.
Yes.
Are we calling that the equity portion?
Well, I think we're calling the restaurant and that
All
is
the
their
other
equity.
stuff, okay.
It's their
So
equity
I just wanted to
contribution.
put that out, these
Yeah.
are, guidelines, not rules.
Yes,
We also have
correct.
the guideline of this is for 5 employees or less, not including the owners. And
Yes.
they kind of talk about 2 to 6 people part-time. So I think when you get into full-time equivalent, they're
Right.
below the threshold, but it's kind of hard to get to that fuzzy logic of the exact numbers, so I'll throw it out there. This is
Correct.
just for an extension of an existing business that's
Correct.
seasonal. as I
900
recall.
square feet for an ice cream shop.
Don was able to, he did meet the owners and personally inspect, the building. Well, at the time, it was just a hole in the ground, but the building is actually up. I see it every morning. So it is up and they are getting ready to open. So I think they've met the, the threshold of what I'll call our rules. They're under, they $40,000, which is 27% of the project. They put the equity in, which is they're obtaining over $150,000 loan for the addition, in addition to the equipment micro enterprise, and I think they've met the employee. So on the resolution, there's a couple of words that I think are misplaced, and this is one of the things that John pointed out. When we get to this, Dave, the second paragraph, whereas staff reviewed this request and recommended approval of the loan in the amount of $40,000 for 5-year amortization with a rate of 5%. I think the word annually should have been there, with a rate of 5% annually, and it should say the first 6 months interest only. I believe that was our intention.
Yes.
Because the way it's worded, it
That
says
was
6
the-
months interest annually. 6 months interest only annually, so John and I thought you meant every year they get 6 months interest only.
They do.
They
They do every year,
Every year?
every year.
Okay, so John and I
They're doubling
misunderstood
up
that.
on, they're doubling up on payment. The
Okay.
amortization doesn't change, the maturity date
John
doesn't
and I
change.
both read it the wrong way,
Yeah.
and came to the same conclusion
Yeah.
independently.
Because don't-
Basically
Yeah,
what they're doing is
We don't want to make it too easy.
They're winter months when they're not,
That makes
when they're
sense.
closed and not
Now
selling
that
ice
you
cream.
described it, okay, so it's worded correctly now that you've
Yeah.
described it, and we didn't have loan review to clarify that.
Correct.
John and I
Right.
came to the same conclusion independently, we're both dumbasses.
No.
No, not at all.
It's good, it's a good question. Hey, Rob,
And it makes
pick up the
sense for
phone and
business.
call me.
What's that?
Pick up the phone and call me
Yeah.
if you need clarification.
Okay. Well, I knew we talked about it here,
Yeah.
it wasn't that big of
Yeah,
a deal.
they're doubling up during the
Yeah.
6 months, so instead of 700, they'll be paying
Okay.
1,400.
So I think what John and I both cited, it's written properly then, that
Yes.
it's clear that it is I don't know if you need to say an annual rate of 5%, and the first 6 months
Whatever
of
you're
each
comfortable
year.
with,
Well, I
we'll
just,
say.
because I misunderstood it,
Yeah.
once they sign the papers. So that's it, I think we talked about it briefly,
Yeah.
and from the loan review perspective by email, it appeared as though this was the type of project that we're trying to attract from Micro Enterprise.
The clients are here, by the way.
Oh.
So they could and should come in
Okay.
and do a bit of a background.
Yeah,
You
let's,
should have shut me up 10 minutes ago.
thank you.
It's ice cream, although they do have bakeries.
Yeah, I do.
I have to leave, so, but I think you still have a forum, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks, Lisa.
It's been a long morning, hasn't
Oh,
it?
that's okay. You gave us a little relaxation out there.
Colleen,
Hi.
Hi, I'm Dave.
sit right
Nice to
there.
meet you.
Grab a spot at the end there, say hello to folks here.
I'm Mike Ballinger. Hey, Colleen. Hi, Colleen. I'm Morris.
Hi.
Mike Ballinger. Nice to meet you.
It's numb. First of all, it's a pleasure to have you two here. It's always an exciting time at our agency when we see a small business grow and develop, and you guys have been at it for a while. And this young man looks at your facility daily and keeps an eye on things.
Nice to have the opportunity to be here.
Tell us a little bit maybe about your history, and then where you headed, what you're thinking, what's the project look like? Kind of give us some background if you could.
Well, 5 years ago, my wife went to the bank, decided we wanted to buy the restaurant that we'd worked at for 17 or 18 years. So Watertown Savings Bank and the Small Business Development helped us purchase that. And last year, after working 5 years in the restaurant business, my daughter didn't want to waitress anymore at the end of the year, so I said, oh, I'm going to build you an ice cream shop. So she said, no, you're not. So that was Saturday. Monday, I called the bank. Wednesday, the bank came down and met with me, and this was back in September, October. And basically, we've been planning everything through Jeff Phelan and Watertown Savings Bank. And basically, we're looking at putting in, we built 800 square foot ice cream shop, addition to our 2,100 square foot restaurant in Henderson, New York. And we're going to be doing
ice cream, soft serve, hard serve Hershey ice cream. We're gonna do some different things in the bakery department. We're gonna have like a bakery display case where we do breads, rolls, some cakes, some pies, some cookies. We're gonna be doing in the fall some cotton candy, some popcorn for the kids, families. We're gonna be doing some candied apples, things like that. And then maybe in the fall, we're gonna maybe do some donuts, kind of like they do at Burville, but in our
Neat
area.
idea.
So.
See, I told you donuts, Rob.
And we're looking to employ, I don't know, 4 to 6 part-time employees, probably 2 full-time employees from this.
You know, these two folks told me when I was visiting a couple, 3 weeks ago, they put about 50,000 people through that store
Yes.
in a year's time. Can you believe that? I don't know if you folks know where this is. It's a rather small facility at the crossroads in Henderson. And it's a neat little place, by the way. If you want a great little meal, there's the place. But I had no idea that 50,000 people went through that place.
It'll probably be better that Cooper's isn't reopening.
Wow.
Well, usually they're open at dinner time, and we're closed at dinner time, so really,
We kind
you
of
know,
switch
that's just
rules.
for, that's just for breakfast and lunch is
So
what we
Cooper's
do.
not gonna open?
No, they're not.
Oh.
No.
The Grimshaws are, I think, had enough.
Yeah, they want to spend time with their family and they
I
have
don't
a lot
blame them
going
there.
on.
Harvey's,
So, yeah, and Harvey as well.
I want to also point out to the board that I will never forget these people for as long as I have, done this business. Never had the experience. As I was going to visit them, I was late, as usual, of course, in my role. I got a speeding ticket, so I will forever have to remember them on that basis. But seriously, this is a great little operation. They've gone through the process. We've met with and worked with several times, Lyle and I, with Jeff Fallon at Watertown Savings Bank. He's very supportive of what has been going on down there, and we, of course, work closely with the bank most often, so
And actually, when we bought the restaurant the first time,
we started.
we were supposed to be going through you guys for 2 loans, actually.
Yeah, we
And
had
split it
gotten
with the
processed
bank,
pretty well.
yes. My wife had met with the board back then.
Yeah, yeah. So we've been working with these guys since the beginning,
Right.
basically.
Yes.
So you said you were gonna build an ice cream shop and your daughter said no. You built it. Now is she back to it?
Oh, she is.
Oh, she is.
So she had a complete change.
Oh,
Oh, she had a
absolutely.
complete change,
She didn't
yeah.
specify, I just assumed.
Yeah.
I'll move the application, Dave.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second it.
Do we have any questions for the folks?
Just a little curious, your bakery options. Will you be doing from scratch? or-
Yeah, both. A little bit of both. Yes. My daughter and I will be doing it, and we might even get Sue Grimshaw. We've put in a request for Sue to come and bake some. Bake some pies and
There's a lot of
Yeah.
She's the owner of the building just down the road. So,
With that being said, I have Resolution 0502-2019.02. It's a resolution for authorizing a microenterprise loan to Colleen's Cherry Tree Inn. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
You got your money.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Sorry.
Thank you very
thank you
much.
very much.
Sorry
everyone.
it took so long sitting out there to.
No,
You
to
gave
do
us a
the
break. It's okay.
That's fine.
show. We wish you good luck.
Yeah.
Thank
good
you
luck.
very much, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Rob will probably be your
Looking forward to buying
he'll probably
something.
be your first customer.
The ice cream probably.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
I'm
yeah.
good on sweets, I don't know why.
Well,
I know, somebody said to me today, this morning, you know you're gonna gain weight eating that stuff. I said, it's okay. It's all right.
It's good for you.
Thank you,
Hey,
everybody.
Thanks a
very
lot.
much. Thank you all.
Just use local milk, okay?
Yes.
Dave Madison will tell you that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you
See
so
you.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
Exclude no process for local.
That part is, they can't.
Well, we can say.
Geez, you can.
Standby, yeah, the standby creditors agreement.
That's an SBA document. We're subordinating to the bank on the gold UPS loan. It's a normal agreement. Joe has reviewed it, and
Yeah,
nothing unusual.
that was the last item.
Now, this is one of my pet peeves.
We all have, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you know, SBA does that, and they force everybody,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah. It's the American way.
Well, this is what we already agreed upon. All we're
They
doing
want-
is putting it in writing now.
the SBA wants everybody to indemnify them and back up, and it just, ugh.
Yeah.
But,
I move.
This is for the
if this
UPS
requires-
store in the bay?
yes,
Is this a resolution or
Tom
information?
Gould, yeah.
No, we have to approve
yeah.
the commitment.
I'll move to have whomever has to, Don, agency to sign this document.
Standby creditors agreement for the UPS store.
I guess I should ask the question, why the council doesn't have changes?
No objection, I've reviewed it, it's standard. I
I thought I
mean, we're allowed to keep getting payments unless there's a default on the SBA loan, and then we have to
Yeah.
back off.
So I have a motion, do I have a second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Treasurer's report.
Thank you. Thanks for adding that extra column towards the end. So if you look at page 8, there's some
Well,
additional
that's,
columns.
this is still not as easy as you think, so,
Okay.
but.
Well, I do it by hand every month anyway.
Yeah,
so those are-
well, I'll try and, I found a few things wrong yesterday. I
It is,
think,
it is somewhat helpful to kind of.
Well,
look at prior
it shows you the
months, so.
variance in details, so.
So, you know, sort of, as we go through page 8, we look through, the unrestricted assets have fallen 44,000 from prior month. The pilot has gone up 49,000 from prior month. We had some small change in the loan funds. The total is reported in the last column is down 21,000 from prior month. Assuming that math is all correct, I didn't check it.
That's pretty
but
close.
Whatever's there is the number.
Throwing numbers in.
If you look at total assets, it's gone up 19,000 from prior month, again, going to that last new column. Liabilities, total current liabilities are up 10K from prior month, pilots are up 49, very de minimis change in loan funds and very de minimis change in convergence. So in total, we're about 59,000 higher than prior month. Fund balance is down 40,000 from prior month, again, it's showing the last column. Go to page 9 of your packet. So 85,000 and some change per month is the linear break even per month to just break even. We're averaging right now 105,000 a month. Again, a lot of it is one-time fees that'll be diluted as we add more months on. We are achieving an additional about 16 or so thousand per month if we take away the large one-time fees. On operational expenses, 90,500 per month is break even. We're averaging 91.4 per month again, because there's a large RCI cost sharing that if you take that away, we're averaging about 71,000. I think we're good on the operational side. When you look at revenue over expenses, it looks like right now, again, with my crystal ball that's black, it's like the Magic 8 Ball black. It looks as though revenue could be in the range of 850 to 900,000 per year, and expenses between 950 and 1 million per year. So our loss could be, barring any unforeseen circumstances, sort of between 50 and 150 a K. 50,000 to 150.
Yeah, that's sort of distorted because we do the in-kind
Yeah.
credit at the end of the year, so
And that's why there's
projecting
things-
on the interim.
And also, we're assuming you don't write out bad data. I'm making some assumptions
Yes.
on this. I mean, there's a lot of things that will distort all of these numbers one way or the other. I get it, but just based on the linear information here, it could be close to break even. It's most likely a small loss.
Yeah, I think probably a small loss, yes.
That's kind of what
When
I
all of the
reported.
adjustments
What I
are.
reported last month was about 100K loss, and just,
Yeah.
that's, or close to break even based on some things. Skipping page 10, go to page 11, which is your balance sheet. Quick assets are down 57,000 from prior month, receivables up 36,000. Our allowances are de minimis. So total current assets are down 22,000 from prior month. Total assets are up 18,500 from prior month. Total current liabilities are up almost 60,000 from prior month, and our total capital, shown on page 12, is down just under 41,000 from prior month. Lyle, on page 14, I'm assuming these might or might not have to do with the airport, but that's my assumption. The large sums for 38 car, there's like a 43
Yes.
and a 5.
If you look on,
Okay, that's what I thought we talked about, it just wasn't, one of them was so big.
if you look on the balance sheet, we have work in process someplace.
Okay, I just noticed those as page 14. Skipping to page 17, 18, 19, go to page 21. We're actually, consistently common here on our receivables. Benchmark did show up again, but they sort of come on and go off.
They do.
It seems to be that Wright Brothers is staying on trend with paying somewhat currently, but 2 months behind. Total receivables at risk are less than 1% of the total receivables. Pointing out, and I think this got pointed out by Dave several months ago, we have very little left in the micro enterprise loan fund as far as what's available without moving funds around, so that's to point out.
We can't move funds around.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we have to collect funds then.
Yes.
So we have that left to provide. The next one, Lyric and Tasted of Design, I guess, showed up again, but
Well,
it might just be
Yeah.
timing.
Lyric, she called me. She had to do something, so she said she was going to be a month behind.
Okay.
She's almost paid off,
Yeah.
if you see it. And Taste of Design has a tendency to run a little slow,
Yeah,
but,
they're another one that kind of come on, go off, here at
Yes.
the bottom for 10 months.
Right.
Again, the sums of money past due is less than 1% of the receivables, so it's not like, yes, it's money that's due to us, but it's not like crippling the balance sheet. Certainly, and then I kind of asked Lyle, you mentioned earlier on the other balance sheet that we had one account we should watch. Is there anybody here that you want to put an asterisk next to?
not at this point. When we get into the budget process, I'll review it again
Okay.
and make a recommendation at that
So everything
time.
seems to be status quo.
Yeah. Now, if you notice on the micro enterprise loan fund, you only have $17,000 left.
Mhm.
And you just approved a $40,000 loan. So, however, the Gaudette loan that we did, the bridge loan that we gave him for the virtual reality, we should be getting that money back
Yeah,
in
that's closing
this
tomorrow.
Friday.
That's closing
Friday.
tomorrow.
Okay.
So
So
that would be
push back
50-some thousand.
Has anyone heard any reviews of that operation, Gaudette?
No, sir?
I met with him yesterday, and it's going fairly well. He's not unhappy with it.
So Lyle, other than payment of loans, balloon-wise, there's no other way to fund microenterprise?
No, this is a grant that we're the sub-recipient of. The original grant went to the county. We're the sub-recipient of it on the RLF and the micro fund. We can't put money into that or do anything to enhance
So
it.
I guess it's a question to the chairman. Is this something our agency can talk about, extending this program under some new name or whatever the heck it might be, so that it's a good
I
program?
was, yeah, it is, and I personally was thinking that maybe we could develop a microloan fund over in the LDC, and I don't know.
Yeah,
That would probably be more appropriate.
it does
Yeah.
make sense there.
Staff is exploring a couple of options for recapitalization of that program, none of which are easy, to say the least, but there are vehicles to do it under the current guidelines, basically. But the LDC seems to make more
Yeah,
sense.
but
in
within
terms
our
of-
agency, we certainly have funds in a lot of
Yeah,
areas that
sure.
are being underutilized,
Yep.
that can be plowed into areas that are
Yeah.
probably of greater need.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Okay.
What was the original amount to begin with that went over into that?
Oh, God, I don't know, and it's a long time ago. It was
200?
probably under $1 million in the micro enterprise. And the RLF, I believe, was something over $3 million. This goes back a long ways.
Yeah. 30 years?
At least, yeah.
Uh,
I've been here 20,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was before
yeah,
my time.
Peg would know that.
It wouldn't take too much to report. I'd just be curious to see the failure percentage of the micro enterprise, of the total amount. In other words, of the total amount was the 800,000 or whatever, and the bad debt writes off for the micro enterprise, and just compare it to a revolving loan fund. I guarantee you, it's
Oh, I have,
We're going to executive.
I have write-offs going back probably 20 years, and beyond that, I don't have anything. Because I recast at one point, if I can find it. I know it's in my file.
To extend this program somehow, some way, whatever
No, I
agency
think
it falls
it is,
under.
yeah.
I was under the misconception that we could fund it through one of the other, I knew this was an original grant, but I wasn't
We could apply.
sure that we couldn't create a sub-account that would also fund it.
We've actually reached out to a couple of different agencies to create another fund, get another grant, but the impacts of those are terribly onerous on the agency. So one of the questions we have to decide, is it worth what we have to commit to get that money? It's significant.
Or to self-fund it.
Or self-funded.
Well, no,
Which is
no, I
another.
don't believe you're allowed to self-fund. I believe IDAs cannot
Yeah, it
lend their
would be
own
under
money.
the
Right.
LDC.
They can only administer
Yeah,
loan
the LDC.
I
programs.
guess it'd be interesting to understand what the facts.
That's what you have the LDC for, is
Yeah.
to serve as a lender.
We didn't know. There's a lot of money in accounts.
We're going to know anyway.
Yeah.
Well, but in reference to ours, I referenced my conversation with somebody from Dank, and, you know, they've received $1 million here from Regional Economic Development a couple of years ago. Most of that is pretty well committed, over even from Dank. So, both Dank
Yeah.
and ourselves, the funds are, the pool's empty.
Is your report complete?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Next on.
I think we're finished, Joe.
Counselor?
Unless you want to talk about the Lundy agreement.
Well, I think we should. We have great news today. My whole point is, I think they have more options without us having to go through and live up to the.
And Mike agrees with that. I've spoken with his attorney. He's fully open to whatever we want, basically whatever we want to do, so.
I mean,
There,
if the town's comfortable, you got 2 towns now, and Mike, I think if they want to run their park, let them deal with it and us stay out of it. And,
Yeah.
you know, support them like we normally would do.
and I think the circumstances of his development have changed since we entered into that agreement to a certain extent. The town, he is working with the town on permitted uses, zoning, all of that sort of thing. But I've spoken with his attorney, and he talked to Mike, and basically Mike's flexible with how we want to approach it, so.
So do you think it's gonna evolve to a memorandum of understanding, or
Whatever your,
will it be not even that?
whatever your pleasure, I mean, we could do that, I mean, that's something that's not binding.
Dave the other day spoke that he thought this was just, a support memorandum. I mean,
It was
listen,
intended just to show support for the development. The provisions that were put in there,
There were requirements.
requiring for us to do reviews, those all came from him. I mean, they proposed that document. We didn't ask for those obligations, so. And he's,
But once we signed it, we had the obligation.
we had the obligations, and certain of those are no longer even feasible, so. There is no termination for convenience provision in this agreement, so we basically, whatever we do has got to be a mutual agreement between us and, if you want me to go back and discuss with his attorney, formalizing, something different.
Memorandum of support.
Yeah, something different, I'd be happy to do that, so.
I mean, that's great news we had today, but, you know, I think he needs the flexibility to look at park where Waldorf equipment is. That was privately developed without us, and it has a mix of things that aren't agriculture. It has industrial, agricultural, office, and retail, and I think they have more flexibility by getting rid of one bureaucratic function.
Well, why don't I suggest that you direct me to go back and work something out with his attorney that takes us out of those obligations and
I think they have more
Works good.
flexibility.
satisfies whatever he thinks he needs as far as support
Yep.
from us.
I think that works.
Makes sense.
I think that works.
It's a great development.
Yeah.
Blank palette, if you want to call it that.
So I'll go ahead and I'll do
Okay.
that.
With that, I need a motion and a second to go into executive session. What's our,
For the purpose of discussing land acquisition.
for the purpose of discussing
I'll make a
land
motion to
acquisition.
Go into executive session for the purpose of land acquisition.
I'd like to invite, well, staff to stay, and I personally would like to invite Scott to stay if the board doesn't have an issue with that.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Opposed?